So inshallah today I want to share how I made Quran memorizing like a pretty strong habit in my day-to-day routine now, and that inshallah if you follow some of the steps that I did, that in a pretty quick time frame, I think that the Quran can be something that's like no different than brushing your teeth in your routine or scrolling your phone in your day-to-day routine. Something where like if you don't do it, it feels strange. Like if you don't memorize, you don't at least read the Quran, it'll begin to feel weird. And this is coming from someone, by the way, who like when I grew up, I wasn't like really memorizing like that. I didn't really have like some special relationship with the Quran. I didn't go to any like specific school or anything like that. I was really just a normal kid where every day I would just go to school, come back, play video games, hop on the internet, do all that stuff, right? So I wasn't really like locked in in terms of Quran or in terms of memorizing or anything like that. But you should be surprised in the sense that like if you really do just a few habits and you start expanding them over just a long duration of time, the Quran will like really seep into your day-to-day routine. And inshallah, if you're memorizing as well, you can make huge progress. When you think about it, just like a few weeks of sacrifice, a few weeks of maybe introducing this new habit can literally dramatically change everything. And one of the first things I had to realize is that us humans are really strict in like sticking to our routine. There's tons of like unconscious decisions you don't even know that you do, but I guarantee you if you were to look at the time of day, the environment, it is probably the exact same thing at every single time. So in one sense it's kind of bad because there's a lot of things that you do that you might not actually want to do, and at the same time it's good because you can introduce new habits, and then after just maybe a few weeks or something and it becomes a habit, it'll just feel like it's not really difficult anymore. It'll just become a part of you, a part of your identity. And after a while of research and just experimenting myself, one of the main things that is out there is called make it obvious, which means make the habit so it's like kind of impossible to forget about or to just go about your day not doing. And one of the strongest ways to do that is having a routine where it actually includes like Quran memorization, like a block for memorization. And I've seen people do this in all kinds of ways. Some people have it in routine, like I do, like an actual written routine on my phone, while some people have like pieces of paper on their room reminding them, oh, I got to do this, or this is like a goal. One of the second biggest things experts say about trying to build a new habit is to say make it appealing, which basically means make it so it's something that you actually like want to do. Because as humans, let's be honest, we always do stuff that we kind of like feel like doing or we have an incentive to do. And the way I personally did this was just by frequently listening to the Quran. It actually makes you want to memorize subhanAllah, or at least read it or understand it even more. So whether you're driving, you're at school, you're at work, always take that opportunity, just put in the headphones and just start listening to the Quran. Honestly, just doing this alone, just listening to the Quran often, is a huge like sign that you'll soon make it a habit. Like you'll soon make memorizing, or at least reading frequently, a habit in your life. And the next thing is to make it easy. So there's a lot of people who say I'm too old to memorize Quran, or I'm too young to memorize Quran, or I'm too busy to memorize Quran. And the thing is that just by saying that, you'll never even get into the momentum, or you never even get to the habit. You'll never even start the habit off. And the way that you actually start the habit off, this is what I did as well, is you start really, really small. You start with whatever you can. I remember those times where I would do just 5 minutes, sometimes 10 minutes, or maybe 30 minutes, something, whatever I could, just to say I'm not doing this with the intention of memorizing. I'm doing it with the intention of building the habit. So then once it's a habit, I can like grow on it. And then in the future, inshallah, I can memorize bigger and I can memorize for longer. And this is probably the most like important tip out of all of these, is that if you just start small, but you make sure you're doing it day in and day out, it's almost guaranteed that inshallah, in the future, it will just become a part of your identity to memorize. And then from that, you can expand however long you're memorizing, expand however much you're memorizing, and then to keep doing that process. And the last tip that I learned about is something called make it satisfying. And essentially what this means is that humans will repeat like behaviors and will repeat habits that feel good. So if you want to introduce like a new habit, you kind of want to add a feedback loop. So like when you're done with that habit, you can do something that feels good, so it triggers you wanting to do it again. So how do you do this with the Quran is what you might be asking. Well, I use something called a habit tracker, where it essentially tracks your habit and you put whatever time limit you want. If you're just starting off, obviously do less. If you're more like into this, you do more. And every time you time yourself and then you just like complete that habit, it kind of just triggers something in your mind as if like that day was a success. And if you're someone who's been memorizing, you can attest to the fact where for some reason if there's a day you didn't memorize or didn't review, it feels like you kind of wasted the day, or feels like just a bad day overall. And again, there's people who do this with the app, there's people who do this with like a Google Sheet or whatever, or you do this with paper or however they do it, but just doing it in general is pretty beneficial. Just tracking this stuff in general is really beneficial. And at the end of the day, I don't want to overcomplicate this, because once you just get in the role a little bit of starting to memorize, once you also even just like understand a little bit of the meaning of the Quran, of what you're memorizing, it'll also, that alone will be a whole other way to like keep you in the game. And I hope that was of benefit, inshallah. And if you want, feel free to join the Discord, inshallah, as well, where people will be reviewing the Quran, and also it's just a really like motivating environment when you see other people also on the same grind, inshallah. And yeah, assalamu alaikum.